Hello and welcome to our next tutorial on how to use Flash animation. In this case it's a car demo. So if you notice, the distant mountains move at one speed, the shrubs in the foreground move quite a bit faster. And then we've got our car just kind of bobbing around, floating a little bit forwards and backwards on the highway. So let's start by making a new file. And the first thing, of course, we have to do is create our background. So, in order to create the sky and land, we're going to use the rectangle tool, turn off the stroke color. It was already off, but that's how you do it there. And use a fill that is a gradient down there in the bottom left corner. So it's going to go from white at one end to blue to the other for the sky. Create a nice gradation for the sky. It doesn't matter what size shape you draw, because you're going to use the free transform tool to rotate it and size it just the right way you want it. This guy should be a deeper blue above and a lighter blue towards the horizon to give proper atmospheric depth. We do the same thing with some color for the ground. So just rotate that the other way and get it to fit into our stage. Make sure it fits the stage and it doesn't go too far beyond the side of the stage, otherwise you might get things cut off when you export as a movie. Now I'm going to put the highway on. Here's sort of a simpler way to do it. I picked a gray for the sidewalk. It's the same gray at the front as it is at the back. So I'm going to draw a larger rectangle with the gray, and then with the same rectangular tool select black and put a black stripe down the middle of it, with the sidewalk at the back being a little skinnier than the one at the front. Again, that creates a little bit of visual depth in your scene. And I'm going to put a sun in there. In this case I used a radial fill with white in the middle and sort of a yellowy orange towards the outside. Hold down the shift key when you drag the mouse and you get a perfect circle. So there's the background done. You like it, you lock it, you save it. I've already had some students encounter the spinning pinwheel of death on the old Mac. You like it, you lock it, you save it. H underscore or whatever period you're in, underscore, your last name underscore, and then the name of the assignment. So I want my animation to last for, I don't know, about 5 seconds. With CS4 I've got to make sure it's only playing at 12 frames per second. So 12 times 5 seconds is 60 frames. So I'll put a frame there. It doesn't have to be a keyframe because this background is still. It's not an animated environment. So on my next layer I'm going to put my mountains. Now I've done some work ahead of time here, and I've created a library for other work that I've done. And it's just a matter of where the library is. It's under something called Car Demo. I'm looking for it here. And if I go through this list, I can see something there called mountains. So what I want to do is get those mountains into this scene. Just drag them over there. So these are, oops, I ended up with another sun. Lay the mountains right up there on the horizon. And actually I originally drew these to fit the scene exactly. I'm hoping by this stage of your work with Flash you know how to draw simple shapes like this and have them with graded fills. I'm going to zoom out so I can put another mountain range just outside of the stage. So when you group these two together, you select the two and modify to group. There's the hotkey for it, Command G. It's just a matter of creating a very simple tween from the first keyframe. Create a keyframe at frame 60 and just drag that across so that it lines up again and create a classic tween. Now when I slide this around, you see the mountains are drifting in the background. Pretty straightforward. So you like it, you lock it, you save it, And now the next step is to put the shrubs in the foreground. So I did the same thing. Here's what the smaller set of shrubs looked like. There we go. There's a small set of shrubs. And then the long set was just basically I took the same thing and copied and pasted it a couple times. There's a little set in front and behind. So that now I can drag that down onto the scene from that library. And do basically the same thing I did with the mountains. They're a bit big for the scene. Like, notice if I drag them in front of the road, they're going to hide the car for the most part. So I'm going to use the free transform tool, shrink them down, put them down in the bottom of the picture, and right click and copy and paste. I pasted down 2 copies of this. One I'll put there, one I'll put there, and that should be enough, I think. No, I added one more copy there. Squeeze it way over to the side. I'm going to use the cursor key to get it right in line with the other ones. You'll see it shift down. Okay, select all of those and group those. So now I've got this big long scroll of a set of shrubs. I do the same thing with the mountains. So I insert a keyframe and drag them all the way across the stage to the other side, and use my cursor to shift them up where they were before. Create my classic tween, and now let's just test movie and see how the background looks. So there's my fast moving shrubs in the foreground, slower moving mountains in the background. That creates what's known in the world of animation as a parallax view. Objects in the foreground move quicker than those in the background. Okay, the next thing to do is the car. So again in my library I started with, let's go take a look at this car. Let me get back to that. I did a fairly simple car, but I drew a flame. I put a rocket on the back. And so here is a movie clip action of the rocket firing. And then I brought that into another movie clip in order to make the car just kind of bounce up and down a little bit. So that's supposed to be the sort of floating motion that the car has on the road. Just bouncing up and down on the little bumps and things like that on a highway. So now those 2 actions of the flame and the bouncing will combine together when I bring that car onto the stage for my little scene. So I drag bouncy car onto the stage, and it's a bit big relative to everything else, so I'm going to shrink it down a touch. And cursor it down into position like that. Now, of course, a car doesn't just sit at one speed all the time, so I wanted to make it look as though the car speeds up, slows down, that sort of thing. So I'm going to drop in a bunch of keyframes here. I'm right-clicking at different places along the timeline and inserting keyframes right to the end. And actually, if you select all those and right-click at once, you can put in all the classic tweens at once. So it's ready for me to move the car around. So I go to this frame and move it forward a little bit. That frame, leave it where it is, and that one there, it can move back a bit. And that one somewhere else, and so on. So the car is going to kind of drift in and out of this scene. Test our movie, and there you have it. Car kind of floating up and down with a little rocket out the back. So that's how you create that sort of effect in Flash animation. See you next time.